You said to me before the podcast, I think you're right. It's kind of a fitting. It kind of fits the way the whole thing went. When I say the whole thing, because it's not just Derek's, it's the Raiders side of it too. The whole thing just never quite worked. And in the end, there was no trade that would have worked for everybody. It just went out with a whimper.
It's really unthinkable. I mean, guy, in recent memory, we have a shot Matt Ryan, who was owed a ton of money, get a shot like he's not good. I mean, justifiably benched this year and it hasn't looked good in a couple years.
And extremely expensive.
Got traded for a third-round pick. Carson Wentz 2 years ago got traded for what turned out to be a first-round pick. Derek is better than Carson Wentz. And then after he proves, Derek beat him, remember, 2 years ago, head-to-head, like week 16, that ultimately indirectly knocked the Colts out of the playoffs because they lost the next week to the Jags. Then he got traded after the season to the football team Commanders for like a third and a third. It was crazy. To lose Derek Carr for 9 years, and it's not like you won that much, so you went through some tough times, but he clearly had earned the respect of the league for nothing. We understand why they did it, because they signed this fake contract, and to sign the fake contract, you had to give him something, and the no trade clause was, his agent deserves a lot of credit on this one, because it's an all-time, like, how did it end like this? All quarterbacks, guy, they would have been better off giving him $60 million last year or something and amortized over 3 years and eating a little bit this year and trading him for like a second-round pick, right?
We're not talking about yeah, I agree, because you would always buy picks if you can, right?
They get nothing.
Like if you said his value, if he was under full team control, as a third-round pick, what would that have cost them to buy a third-round pick? Or
if he was under team control at like a relatively normal number, let's say like 28 million or something.
Yeah, then you're right. He's a second.
I think he gets a second-round pick.
I agree with you. Which is worth you would kill to buy a second-round pick.
Like the Saints,
especially after you just traded picks for Devontae.
It's insane.
Sorry, Saints. You're saying the Saints would trade a second?
And their second's pretty good.
Well, there'd be multiple teams, right? That's what would create, at minimum, a second-round pick, is the Saints would want to do it. The Jets, if they don't get Rodgers, would want to do it. There'd be multiple teams. The Giants would want to do it, I think. Hell, the Patriots might want to do it.
Feels like Bill and Mac are buddies.
They're softening. The Dolphins.
Bill O'Brien and Mac.
Oh, Bill O'Brien. I think the other part of it, it's not like Derek. There's debates about, is he the same quarterback? But the debate is not, Derek used to be a top 15, fringe top 10. Now he's 25th. Like, he's still a borderline, or maybe not even borderline, top 15 quarterback in the NFL. If you think it's crazy, to me, it's hard to even get a top 10 list. It's hard to get a top 10 list of quarterbacks that everybody would agree on. Like next year, it'll be Mahomes, Brady, Burrow, Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, Aaron Rodgers.
Was that a Freudian slip about Brady, or was that like a joke?
Did I say Brady?
Yeah.
Oh, let me start again. Mahomes, Herbert, Burrow, Hurts, Josh Allen, Rodgers. There's 6.
I think if Lamar's playing, he'd be in there.
Absolutely. Lamar. Forgot about Lamar. There's 7.
Watson's a little bit of a wild card.
Trevor Lawrence, Dak.
I think Trevor Lawrence would be a top 10 guy.
Okay, now we're at 8.
Dak, I think's right around there, 9.
Now we're at 9.
Yeah.
Like
Cousins probably fits right in 11, 12.
Yeah, if Geno half the year was a. But my point is, like, you start debating who the best quarterbacks are in the league are when you get to like 8, 9, 10, 11. So by that measure, Derek is easily a top, just like generally he is a top 15-ish. He's around 15 quarterback. It's not like the schlub quarterbacks.
Well, Carson Wentz guy was bottom 10. Matt Ryan was bottom 10.
When they got hated. Matt Ryan was bottom 10 and expensive and old.
Liked, though.
But I'm just saying, like, Derek is top 15-ish, healthy, not expensive. Even if he was under contract, he'd be, like you said, maybe it'd be 32 or whatever million.
Put it this way.
Not a bet, like good guy. It's just
if the Arizona Cardinals had Kyler Murray injured, everyone hates him, or just Derek Carr under contract on the team, would their job have been more desirable?
that's a really good question.
I've heard by pretty credible people it was a toxic job.
Just because of Kyler.
Well, because that was a name you didn't list. And if healthy,
You're
Kyler
right.
is
I left him out too.
Kyler's a better player in a vacuum than Derek. Hell, he beat him this year, right? With honestly some miraculous plays, right? Remember that little runaround he had? Was that like week 2? It was incredible. Throw in overtime. I think the 2-point conversion was fucking sweet. But his overall package, I don't think a lot of people would mess with him. So it's where I think you have to factor in the guy. All those people you listed, the only one that really has red flags like Aaron, because he does ayahuasca and it's kind of weird, but he's not. You just if he's trying, you win with him.
He's
not
better
that
than
bad.
his weirdness.
Yeah,
You would
and
take.
he's not that weird. Kyler's people don't like him, right? It's God, he's miserable. So one thing Derek has is going for him is a positive energy. I mean, this goes back to Stafford, who was much better than Derek viewed. All right, if you just polled GMs, if they were both available, every GM in the league would take Matt Stafford, and rightfully so. He went for 2 fucking ones.
What we didn't name was Darnold.
Went for a 3
2 years ago. He went for a 6th, a 2nd, and a 4th.
I think if you're going to go through the headache, if you're a fan of having this one guy, and he was a very polarizing player, partly because they just didn't win that much, which wasn't all his fault, though sometimes some of the individual games were his fault. To lose him for nothing when you just listed Sam fucking Darnold went for a 2nd-round pick.
Third.
It's pretty nuts.
No, sorry, 2nd.
I think they got a 3rd back. I think when you factor it in, I don't know exactly how it all went down, but which I actually thought was a risk worth taking.
Niners, yeah. Sometimes it's the deals you don't do that are good too, right? Niners. But they weren't going to make him their backup quarterback. But they were going to make him the backup, but they wouldn't have drafted Brock Purdy.
It just shows you the high end, right? Like when Stafford or, people thought Russell was good, or what Rodgers definitely would have gone for last year to the Denver Broncos. Even this year, he threatens to retire all the time. What would you say at minimum they're getting? Like a 1 and a 3 at minimum for Aaron Rodgers?
I'm pausing to think that.
Okay, I'm the Jets.
Minimum might be
you're
more.
Gudikins. 2 2s. That's our offer.
No, what I'm thinking is you have to offer more.
So when I say 2 2s, what do you say back?
Well, I say no. Yeah. But when you say 1 and a 3, I might say it's got to be 2 1s, or it's got to be a 1 and a 2.
So my point is the high end of quarterbacks is the equivalent of buying homes for $10 million. Well, the low end of quarterbacks of a guy that you think can be your starter and be a top 15 guy isn't get this real estate for $250K. It's still $2 million.
I love the Redfin ads. We're Redfin. Oh, this house looks great. It's $375. It's oh, cool, beautiful, 7 bedrooms on 3 acres.
Yeah, it doesn't exist. So I think that really hurts. And I think if they could have a redo, which is not the way the world works, they would have been better off playing his contract out and franchise tagging him, and they would still be able to trade him at minimum for a 3 and probably still a 2 and a 4.
You have to wonder if they viewed it the most important thing to them was the money and not the value. Let's make sure we don't get stuck with any money, right?
Which is fine, but if that was their number one goal, they should have just played it out.
Yeah,
because who else are they tagging? I guess they find themselves in a position going to tag a running back, but are they really going to tag a running back?
Max? When did Crosby do his deal? Were they going to tag him?
Under contract?
Oh, I guess, but I'm saying when they did Derek's contract.
He would have done it, yeah, in the offseason.
So when they did Derek's deal.
You're right. I'd have to look at the date. So yeah. To me, though, the last thing they should have done is Derek. Because they had the most questions. Crosby, you shouldn't have that. Obviously, you want Crosby on your team. Devontae. what was the rush to like? It was a little bit like they tried to outthink the room. Like when you give these extensions to coaches, they're like, bro, you didn't need to do that. I kept saying it last year about Cliff.
I think, well, part of it, to be fair, they would have thought he's going to have a great year. Josh McDaniels going to make him, his best self.
Yeah. Or if he's just a solid player for us, it's still a really good deal, right? Because we're in control of it year to year. We're not going to do Matt Ryan. But like Matt Ryan still netted them value back. I'm just saying. I'm not saying that they ultimately at least leave by cutting him with, just it's the money's dry, right? They're not eating like $40 million or even $25 million dead cap. But I think cutting an asset guy for nothing. I mean,
what do you think teams would be willing to pay dead cap for a second round pick? Like, what would you go? You know what? $12 million dead cap, but we got a second. That's a good deal. Is that too much? Is it 15?
It's hard. I don't know. I have to ask. That's a complicated question.
Yeah,
probably depends where the like 35 is probably a lot more valuable than 56, right?
Yes.
Like if I told you that the Saints would have had no problem if the money, like if he was just under contract trading their second round pick, which is they have the 10th pick in the first round, which the Eagles have. So that means the second round starts at pick 32, pick 42. Think how valuable just pick 42 is just to people in the league for a guy that you're getting nothing back. And again, it's not the worst case scenario because they're not cutting Matt Ryan's contract, right? So it's not screwing the Raiders, but just when you've gone this far to get nothing, God, that's just bad business. The result is just awful. You can argue how they got here, and it's up for debate, and I understand part of where they're coming from.
I know you do, but your counter is it's just somehow nobody ever ends up in this situation.
Ever. Someone in the chat, remember Tannehill was like injured all the time? Is he even that good? They got a fucking 4th round pick for him. It actually turned out that was actually probably a pretty good deal for the Titans in the sense of like, that's pretty good value.
Yeah.
You always get something. Always. Hell, for random shitty guys, you get like, hey, we'll give you a 6th for that guy. Most starting players in the NFL have some value.
6th or 7th.
Exactly. All the time.
6th.
No value. Like his value is like the same as like Kinlaw next year. Just
but no, because he has value. People want to sign him.
Well, yeah, to other teams.
So when it's in your house, no value. When it's in,
but that's the thing. Like, so what is the value that cutting Derek gives them? Some cap space, but like Aaron Rodgers is not a free agent. Because I'd say, well, if it helps them, make a big offer to Aaron Rodgers, I'd be like, okay, you could justify it. But like, if you were to be able to,
he decided to stay.
Exactly. But having that extra pick, like, what if that's the difference in like the Jets just outbid the Raiders?
Oh yeah, in a trade.
That extra ammo, like having ammo in these trades matter.
Yeah.
Or like, hey, we really wanted to trade up for CJ Stroud, but we just didn't have enough juice.
Right.